So hi everybody, my name is Sharon Brown and I run the Book Chief Publishing House, which is the publishing house who has published this book and will be publishing subsequent books in this series. Just to give you a little bit of background about what we do. So every business needs a niche and we niche in collaborative books. Now we have had quite a few people answer the questions on the event, just saying that they would be interested in doing a collaborative book. So if you do want to chat about that at any point afterwards, then do let me know. I will be in touch with you anyway, and it's a lot easier than you may think. So that's just a little bit about the Book Chief. You can find us at thebookchief.com and all our information is on there. So first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. We are waiting on some readers and authors turning up. So we will just play this by ear and just go in order of the people that we have at the moment. So in terms of an introduction, Mildred is not here yet. So I am going to read Mildred's introduction for her. So just bear with me a second. Okay. Okay, so bear with me. So Mildred, the ex-wife of the DC sniper, in the midst of chaos, is a high-profile series of books and events that will highlight the stories and courageous journeys of those who have suffered, endured, and escaped abuse in any form. According to law enforcement, Mildred was his target. You read that correctly. All those people were killed because John Muhammad wanted to cover his tracks so he could eventually kill Mildred and gain custody of his children. It was a domestic abuse child custody issue, although 2022 marks the 20th anniversary of this horrible event. This is why this book is being done, which claimed the lives of 17 people and severely injured a number of others. 2022 also marks Mildred's 22nd anniversary of her freedom and safety. So that's just a little overview about what this book is about. So I am going to go to our first reader, who is Alison Ward. Alison, I'm going to pop you on Spotlight.
Okay.
Bear with me. And let you read your chapter.
Thank you. The beautiful gift in the ugly box, Alison Ward. The dawn of a new day brought hope along with the sunshine. Upon awakening, I felt warmed by the sun flooding through. There was a feeling of trepidation and anxiety that took away the feeling of lightness. I recalled that Graham wasn't going to be in the area for a few weeks. He'd got a plaster restoration job in Brighton, England, and would be staying with his brother. What a relief. As I tended to my son, Sam, the anxiety came back and wouldn't leave me. It grabbed my gut and started to twist it around, coupled with a sense of nausea. No matter what I told myself, my body was telling me something totally different. An uneventful day followed. Sam and I returned straight home from work and nursery. No park visits today. Imagine my surprise when opening the door to see Graham standing there. What are you doing here? I thought you were in Brighton. I was, but I'm here now. I think we need to discuss Sam and my access. At long last, he had realised that to be a good dad, Sam needed stability, security, and routine. I scanned him over all too briefly and invited him in, quickly turning off the gas of the spaghetti sauce as we passed the kitchen. Imagine my surprise then when walking into the lounge, Graham ignored Sam. How long had it been since he last saw him? I couldn't remember. Why is he ignoring him? I questioned silently. As I tried to make sense of what was going on, I caught a whiff of beer. The realisation hit me that shit, I shouldn't have let him in. Feeling vulnerable and at the same time trying to work out what I needed to come up with an escape plan, I was interrupted by a sharp flash of pain. Bang, my face. Bang again, my face. No, surely this is not happening. Graham had headbutted me twice in quick succession and was now telling me, I don't want you, but I don't want anyone else to have you. My mind started to race. Is this really happening? Sam looked bewildered and frightened. My gorgeous little boy. I couldn't stand the thought of him witnessing this. Again, my thoughts were interrupted, this time by Graham's speech. I've planned it all. I'm going to kill you. Today's a day you're going to die and no one can help you. Today's a day you're going to die and you will be all alone. No one will find you. Then I'm going to kill me and Sam. No, please, I shrieked. God, no, not Sam. I'll do anything, Graham. Please, please. Graham had produced a knife from his back pocket. He means this. He really means this. So many thoughts, so many fears tumbled down all at once. As I was trying to work out what to do, another headbutt came down, this time in full force. He then repeatedly banged my head against the wall. By now, he had manoeuvred me into the corner and was straddled across me, trapped with no escape. My head started to swim and consciousness slipped away. I could see the knife. It was now in front of my face. This was a knife that had been missing from my kitchen drawer. How long had he planned this? The next stage was inevitable. He stabbed at my chest. The piercing pain gripped me as the blood shot across the room in short, sharp bursts. So many things happening all at once. Was I watching a horror movie? I wasn't sure. The reality hit me. It was a horror movie and we were the main cast.
That is such a scary story when you hear that out loud. It's, you know, the obvious question is, how did you survive that? That's just, you know, he was clearly trying to kill you. I take it you were in hospital for quite a while.
Actually, no, I was too petrified to stay there because he told me that he'd send someone to finish the job. So I discharged myself.
Oh, wow. Oh, God. And was your injuries really quite horrendous then, I take it?
The main one was to my leg. I pulled my leg up to my chest to protect my chest, and it was it just missed the main artery. So I was very, very lucky. It was the wounds were easy enough to heal. It was a mental trauma that was the worst, the PTSD that followed. That the nightmare was afterwards. That was just that was episode 1 of the nightmare. The nightmare carried on afterwards with the whole system and the whole recovery and judgment of others.
Yeah, I think I've read that quite a few times throughout this book as well.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Alison? Karen?
Thanks, Alison. That was amazing. I guess my main question is, how are you doing now?
Fantastic. I'm happily married and have been for 27 years.
Oh, wow, that's brilliant. I'm so
Sam
happy
is
to hear
top
that.
of his game in the events world. And my husband and myself, we had another son. And it was the ugly gift, the beautiful gift in the ugly box, eventually.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other questions, guys? No? Johan?
How's your son today?
Well, interestingly, with lockdown and having the vaccine, he wasn't able to have the vaccine because he didn't realise, but he got a needle phobia, which I was convinced it was because he'd seen his mum stabbed. But he was with a job that gave him Bupa, private healthcare. And he was diagnosed at age 30 with chronic PTSD. So he was 2.5 when it happened. So 27 years later, he's now getting treatment. But resilience, amazing and inspiring.
Oh, bless.
That's quite a phenomenal story for you and your son, Alison. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just so glad you managed to get out of it, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thanks so much. Okay, guys, we're going to go to our next reader, who is Jacqueline Miller. Jacqueline, can you just introduce yourself and your chapter title, please?
Certainly. Hello, I am Jacqueline, and my title is Healing Through the Chaos, Curating Health Adversities for Opportunities of Systemic Change. And I am a mother, I am a sister, I am a daughter, I'm an auntie, I am a friend. I am a national training facilitator. I conduct workshops, and there are many, many things that I do. I am a content creator as well. Domestic violence can seem normal to children when adults besides relatives and family friends are being harmful towards them. It can appear that this is just the way people and life are. What seemed to be a random and normal day, my mother looked at me as I was unbraiding my hair. She said, "Your hair always grew fast when you were young." I was running my fingers through my hair and I reflected on the bald spots I used to have on both sides of my head when I was younger. I remember having and wearing certain hairstyles to cover those bald spots. Well, after learning about chronic stress, I learned and remembered that stress in a child's life, just as adults, can cause their hair to thin and to even fall out. I began to take courage and curiosity. I wanted to experiment as an adult. What could I do to prove that my body had everything it needed to grow my hair back? And it's done just that. I don't have pictures to show today, but I can say that there is hair here on the sides. There is hair here on the sides. And what that means and what I was given was space, time, and resources to explore and to do some radical self-care to prove to myself that those bald spots were just there simply for the reason of being exposed to childhood experiences of domestic violence, and that certainly those situations can and does impact a child's life. I will continue reading. As I began writing this chapter, I identified that the chaos I was experiencing was external and it had not seeped into my spirit. Although young, without much experience, I could find peace in the power of knowing that I would make it through this chaos. My spirit remained intact, and I have turned to it again and again. So here goes more into what was I experiencing that was so chaotic. As I learned about asthma that I suffered with, I reflected on the many days, cold, harsh winter, snow and ice, where my mother and I would take the public bus to the public hospital that was known to have the best doctors. As we rode the bus, I would see children playing ball, jumping rope, riding bicycles, and skateboarding. I often wondered if I would ever be able to play as they were. My mother gave me the very best while we were living in a household that was rippled with domestic violence and ongoing threats of the entire family being killed when I was a child. I had experienced many forms
Jacqueline, sorry, you're on mute. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm not sure how that happened, but thank you for flagging that for me. As we learned about my asthma and how life-threatening it was, my mother provided even more of the best and quality of care and her attention to me to provide everything that I needed. This was around the age of 12 that I experienced my life being threatened in many ways, not only violence in the home, but also the life-threatening asthma attacks on a weekly basis. Not only the asthma attacks on a weekly basis, but my need for caring adults who would listen and tune into my needs when I was out of my asthma inhaler. That many times I hid and kept away from my mother because I knew it would burden her more to purchase the inhalers that I needed. The emergency room seemed like one of the few places where adults would welcome me with open arms and smiles. This was very different from other places that I would go as a child. I remember up until my teenage years, nurses and doctors would address me as a child, as they were gentle and patient with me. I remember a doctor getting on my level and looking me in the eyes to talk to me about my asthma, the medication that I was going to be provided, and that he was very happy to help me. Then later, when I became an older teenager, my experiences within the hospital system drastically changed. I was no longer looked in the face, in the eyes, no more eye contact. And then those providers would leave the room. A nurse would return with medication in her hands. One of the times after a hospital visit, I returned home. I couldn't wait to get back home. I was excited to get back home after being stuck with needles all night. I remember the 6-foot narrow window in my bedroom. It faced a brick wall that sat to the south of us. It seemed like a view that had no hope. It was lifeless, but I knew better. There was hope and there is life. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a great reading. Thank you. It sounds like, I mean, all these stories tonight are going to be very kind of emotive, and they're going to really strike a chord with some people. So thank you for sharing that. Does anybody have any questions for Jacqueline? Alison.
Yes.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi.
Have you a relationship, and has your experience of young life affected your relationship with whomever you're attracted to?
I would say that it has. For the very fact of those in your life that you expect to be loving and trusting and caring, and to get anything different from that certainly makes it uncertain that those who enter your life will in fact be caring, loving, and trusting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And,
Thank you
and
for the
may I
question.
also ask about your children or child? You say you're a mother. What's their understanding of domestic abuse?
Their understanding is, so thank you for the question, Allison. I have been doing the work of addressing violence, intimate partner violence, and homicide for the past 30 years. And I have had my children right alongside me, where my daughter in particular has become an advocate, and at her young age would share stories and do a lot of awareness within her school, and even tell her friends, you need to talk to my mom.
Oh, wow.
He can help you.
Brilliant.
Thank you for the question.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Alison. Is there any other questions for Jacqueline? Anybody? No. Jacqueline, thank you so much for that. That was a really powerful reading. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move along to our next author now, who is Johan Rylander. I'll just pop you on spotlight, Johan.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here with you, and thank you for joining this important presentation of a book that has a lot of emotive things. This is a very serious thing, domestic violence. My name is Johan Rylander. I am from Uppsala, a town in Sweden. My chapter is number 6 in this book, and it is called Domestic Violence Has No Gender. Just a short introduction is that, as you all know, male victims of domestic violence is something that is hardly spoken about. I didn't know what that was. I was stuck for 25 years in my destructive marriage. And since nobody writes about it, talks about it, I didn't really know what I was exposed to. I've been free now for 4.5 years. I remember sitting at the safe house 4.5 years ago, and I felt free, but I also decided I'm going to raise awareness on male victims of domestic abuse. I'm going to write a book. Now I've written a chapter in this very important book, and it's like a milestone. The coercive abuse also included our economy. She demanded complete control over our finances. I was forced to transfer my salary into her account. There was no point asking her how much was on our account. She just told me I shouldn't bother, but also she would always ask me, why didn't I trust her? It was so awful not to have the slightest say regarding our economy. I could just quietly see her buying more and more things, expensive stuff we didn't need. This was her way of compensating for her depression. But also, it was about creating a facade so that our friends would be impressed. It was now that my financial trouble began. She prioritized all bills with her name on them. Bills with my name came last on her list, leading to me getting huge debts. My debts ended up with the bailiff. I'm still today struggling with these debts. She would use a very, very efficient tool from her abusive toolkit to keep me under control, to threaten to destroy my personal belongings. However, it did not stop at threats. She destroyed the clothes, the belongings I cared about, worth thousands and thousands of dollars. She broke 5 pairs of glasses, and without glasses, I can't see correctly. She would take my wallet with my driver's license and other essential documents, and to get my things back one by one, I would have to beg. I could notice how she enjoyed having this power over me, and I became smaller and smaller. Having been subjected to this psychological, coercive, economic, and material abuse for so long, I had become a pale shadow of myself. I didn't really care about things. Nothing mattered. My life was about enduring from one day to the next. From having been an empathetic person, I had now developed emotional apathy. As I at this point didn't care about this psychological abuse, well, she raised the bar. It was now the physical abuse began. Thank you.
Yeah, that was again very, very powerful. And you know, it's very hard for all you guys to share your story tonight. So, you know, first of all, well done to you for doing that, for actually coming out and saying the things that you're saying. I think it's also very brave for you, Johan, as a man to do that, because many, many men, as we know, just don't, you know, and I'm sure, as you know, it goes on an awful lot more than what people think. So, you know, hats off to you, Johan, for actually doing it and coming out and saying what you're saying. Has anybody got any questions for Johan? Karen, you're on mute. I'm just asking you to unmute. Bella.
Sorry, let me unmute. It's not a question really, Johan. It's just that, like Sharon said, thank you for sharing. And not that long ago, you posted some pictures on social media as well, showing you, you know, looking really happy. And I just wanted to say that it was, especially now after hearing you say this, to tell us your story, it was just so amazing to see those pictures, because you really did look so happy. It was really joyful to see. So thank you for sharing those as well, because it shows that no matter what we go through, we can still find that smile from somewhere.
Thank you, Karen. It's very emotive, but yes, I am happy. I'm 55 years old now. I'm a father. I have my parents. Thank God I managed to leave in time, you know. There's so much that I want to do, and I am happy, and it is possible to move on. It's a tough thing, and having this opportunity to turn something negative around to something where I can help others, and also put on the map that this happens to anyone. It is not about gender, it's not about sexual orientation. It happens actually to everyone. And as we've spoken earlier today about children, it's about children. I have 3 lovely children. They are 30, 26, and 17, and just being able to be a father again, the way I want to be, is wonderful. Thank you, Karen, for your words.
Amazing. Alison?
Thank you, Johan. I'm a mental health mentor, and I have come across many men who've gone through domestic abuse, and we do need you to speak up. So thank you on their behalf, and the wonderful men out there. I do want to ask you, were you aware of any red flags early on in the relationship, and did you ignore them?
Red flags were many. The thing is, I didn't see them then. That is the thing with these perpetrators. They are very creative in their way of catching their partner. And I remember my mother, actually, who's with us here tonight, she asked me so many times in the beginning, can't you see what's happening here? And I said, yeah, I know, but you know, when she's nice, she's so lovely, you know. She has this, she's, you know, she just needs help on the way. She has this beautiful side, and she, you know, I was so caught up, you know, being an empath, being a high sensitive person. I thought I could help her, and I didn't see the red flags. Today, I see multiple red flags when I look back. That's why I'm going to write a book after this one, a whole book, solo book, where I'm going to put words onto all of those red flags that one may be, because being a male victim, being a man, you need some something to understand, to
compare.
Yeah, you know, we always talk about female victims. So when a woman is in a destructive relationship, she knows, she has heard so much about it, she knows, but many men don't. And we as men are supposed to also be the one who takes care of trouble, even in a relationship. So I thought, you know, if I do this, if I do that, maybe, you know, even, you know, there's so many things, but I did not see the red flags at that point, which is sad now. But I mean, I'm just 55 years old, so I'm pretty young. I have my whole life ahead of me. So can I help other people, not just men, to not endure all of those years in a destructive marriage or relationship? Then that's what I'm going to do. It's my mission.
Okay, wonderful. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Any other questions for Johan? No. Thank you, Johan. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next speaker, who is Karen Ferguson. I'll just pop you on spotlight, Karen. Okay.
Hi, my name is Karen Ferguson, and my chapter is called I Refuse to Let Him Win. I am a therapist, a counsellor, hypnotherapist, coach, and I think one of the difficult parts for me was having been a therapist for a long time, I didn't see that I was in an abusive relationship. In fact, when it was pointed out to me by a solicitor, I kind of felt really stupid that I hadn't seen it. And she sat there and reassured me that it was quite normal that people didn't see it, because I think historically we've always found it that it's domestic violence, not really abuse, it was violence, and that's all everybody ever expected it to be. So when it isn't violence, or at least not the actual hitting and punching people, you don't always see where it is. So the excerpt that I'm going to read on my chapter really isn't about the abuse as such, it's about kind of what happens afterwards. So if you ask me today why I'm telling you about the after effects of the abuse rather than the abuse itself, it's partly because I've already written my book, Johan, so I can't wait to read yours. But my book, My Life with a Sociopath, It Can Happen to Anyone, tells my story. But also the other reason is because sometimes what happens after the abuse is almost as bad, sometimes worse. I found myself in supermarkets with my son, particularly during lockdown, which was challenging anyway, literally gripping to the trolley, desperately trying to control my breathing because panic had taken hold of me. I went through periods where I would shake for days at a time, not big noticeable shakes, but enough to exhaust me. I've smelt him in my house when there was no possible way he could have been there. He's been in my dreams where I can't escape him. It's like having an invisible enemy that dogs your every move. And this made me so frustrated and angry at times because I felt like he kept winning. And no matter what I did, I couldn't shake him fully from my life. What did he do to cause this trauma in me? He lied. He punched things. He broke things. He smashed in 2 front doors, held his fist just inches from my face. He refused to speak to me for days, and he looked at me with such venom, such pure hatred that I never thought possible. He told me that he loved me, hated me, couldn't live without me, hoped I'd die, was his everything, hoped my cancer returned, was his soulmate, and that he planned my murder. He stole from my purse and my bank accounts. He went through my possessions to find and steal money that I'd been forced to hide. He pushed us into debt, causing us to nearly lose our house. He spent money he didn't have and left me to pay off his debts. He was aggressive, violent, controlling, and a borderline alcoholic. Well, at least he drank every single day. He would cause arguments for no apparent reason and would throw his dinner in the bin regularly, in the garbage, if someone looked at him funny or if they didn't compliment his cooking enough. He stalked me, called me vile names, tried to use my children against me, wished me dead, used threats of suicide, swallowed pills and alcohol in front of me. He harassed me in person, by phone, and with messages. He threatened to shoot me, and he drove his car into my house.
Sorry. Thanks,
That's okay.
Karen. Thanks for that. Again, another really powerful reading there. Can I just ask, in terms of the red flags again, did you know there were red flags? Did you feel it in your gut instinctually that this was wrong?
Quite early on, there were some obvious signs, but you know what it's like when you meet someone, you love them, you just write it off. It was a new relationship, you're getting used to people. You know, he'd lived abroad for a number of years, so he didn't know many people here, and I was pregnant relatively quickly, and you kind of write it off. You just put it down to, oh well, a bit like Johan said, well, if I do a bit differently, if I try that a bit harder, or if I just love them that bit more, then, but no, looking back, I mean, it's glaringly obvious. But I guess when you're not like that as a person, you don't see them as red flags. You just, because your mind doesn't go there. It's like when he was coming out of prison, people said to me, well, what do you think he's going to do? And I'm like, but I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not a sociopath. I have no idea what he's going to do. So I think it's great to know red flags, but they really, really need to be pointed out to you, because when you're not like that, you just simply don't see them.
And do you think you would see them now?
I would like to think so. I mean, I wrote a book about red flags, so I guess if I don't, I'd need to revisit that and reread it myself. I think, yes, in some ways I've kind of gone the opposite way, and I've struggled a bit. I kind of become a bit hard because I struggle. I'm not really, but I've struggled in a way to go from having to deal with all of that to being assertive. And I know at times I've gone beyond assertive as I'm trying to find the right kind of assertive place to fit in and not be aggressive, because I kind of wasn't used to it. So I think learning how I feel and my emotions hopefully makes it easier for me to spot those things again. Yeah, I hope so. That's the best I can say, really. I hope so, yes.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking that, because I know a few people who have been through that sort of thing, and they've talked about breaking the cycle. And sometimes some people keep choosing the same sort of people.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that is. Even
I
though
think
they
because
can see it.
there's a sense of comfort there, weirdly enough. It's what you know. Doesn't mean you like it, but it's kind of what you know. And I think if you don't allow yourself to heal in between, you're kind of just repeating patterns, because really what you're trying to do is hope that, well, maybe I can help this one. I couldn't do the last one, but maybe if I'm different this time, I can stop this from happening. Or maybe if I do this, where really it's about, well, actually, if I heal myself, I won't be prepared to go into just any relationships. I've got one. I won't be prepared to put up with that, because actually I know my value. I don't know about the rest of you, but I know Johan mentioned something about the shadow of himself. And oh, absolutely. I kind of got lost. I don't even know who I was. I'm not even 100% certain now. I know I'm a lot happier, but I think you kind of have to take that time to learn to be happy and comfortable with who you are. And then you can move, because then you're less likely to put up with poor behavior from others or being treated badly. But yeah, you're right. It takes a lot. There's been times when I've kind of thought I'd have been better off staying with him, because the sheer slog afterwards, the red tape, the legal system, the everything else you have to deal with is so hard. It's such hard work. It's draining and everything else. And there's times when I think, gosh, would it have been better to just stay? I mean, I know it wasn't, but yeah, absolutely, because it's hard work. And I admire any of us all here and anybody else that finds the strength and the courage to do it, because people think when you walk out or when they walk out that it's over. It really isn't. It's pretty much the beginning in some ways.
Wow. Yeah, I can understand that. Jacqueline, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. And I want to say my apologies in advance for having to log off before we end. And I want to say hello to my sister, Mildred. Glad you're here. So I wanted to make a quick comment. Thank you, Karen, for what you've offered and shared. What I do know and learn about abuse and abusive relationships and abusive behaviors is that you can have the highest self-esteem. You can you can know yourself. You can be a strong person. The thing is that the abuser chooses when to reveal their behaviors and tactics, and chooses its victims and chooses when to make those behaviors known, which is usually to the victim in a place of privacy in the home or in that particular relationship, so that it doesn't look like to the community or to their congregation or to even their other family members that it will reveal their abusive behaviors. So I just like to offer that in this space. Abusers choose their victims, choose the tactics of abuse, and chooses when they will let it known that they have abusive tendencies.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Johan, you've got your hand up as well.
Yes, first, Karen, thank you for reading your excerpt, and I was so much emotions here. And what's obvious again is that it's not about a man or a woman here. I have listened to you other chapters here, and I feel such resemblance in everything that you are telling, even though I was lucky not to be as physically abused. But what I would like to know from you, Karen, a little bit, you were talking about the after violence, because I think that is so important to address, and especially we all who have been abused know that the psychological abuse is not so spoken about. But I would say, yeah, of course, if you compare, you should never compare, but it's very rarely spoken about, these invisible scars that you get as a victim, and how long it takes to get rid of those scars. I've been free for 4.5 years. I don't know how long you have been free, Karen, but I still wonder, how long is it going to take until I am not reminded of her when I go into a certain shop, when I go into a certain place where we went, listening to some kind of music or whatever that I had to do with her. And I feel, I have these ups and downs. I have days, sometimes weeks, when I feel just low for no particular reason. So my question, how do you still get reminded of him? How long has it been since you left your district?
Well, actually, it was in May 2020. So no, there was no kind of respite really, because it was court appearances and going back to court because the judge got the sentencing wrong, and then he broke his conditions even though he was in prison, and he's still holding up my divorce, and he came out the week before my book came out. And I have my children, I love my children, but they're his children. I have his surname, which kind of made me smile. Sharon read it out. I'm not changing it intentionally because it's also who I am. It's just a name. How long? I don't know. I now, he does crop up in my dreams occasionally, but now it's more a case of, oh, what are you doing here? I'm not afraid of him anymore.
Mm.
When he came out, I put the alarms on my windows, I locked my front door. I've got a personal alarm. I set up an alarm on my phone.
Mm.
And 2 days later, I sat there and I thought, what am I doing? I'm not doing this. I'm not living like this. So I got up, I locked my front door, I turned off the alarms, I put away the personal alarm. I thought, I'm not doing it. I'm not prepared to live like this. But the rest of it, I don't know. I mean, I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was given medication. I wouldn't take medication because, quite frankly, I kind of knew that I had to go through what I was going through in order to come out the other side. And I knew that medication would just literally numb it all, and I still would have to work through it at some point. So I put up with the shaking, I put up with the inability to breathe, I put up with why it was my local supermarket that triggered it, I don't know. It's got no real connection with him there particularly. But now I have moments. I get what you're saying about having times. I have moments. Weirdly enough, it's not usually directed at him. It's directed at
just
the police, the red tape, the fighting for every single thing to get we're here to help you, ask for what you need, but I don't know what I need. I've never been here before. It's the delay, it's the proving, it's that all of this that goes on afterwards. It's that kind of makes me more angry. Why was no one stepping up? Why is no one actually doing something to help us when we found the courage to step away or push them out or whatever it is we do? That's the thing that prolongs the trauma, and that's the thing that barely gets spoken about, in my experience anyway.
But you,
I like to
great
add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mildred. Hi, Mildred.
Okay,
Oh, hello, Mildred.
hi, I'm here.
Yay.
I'd like to add to that. In terms of how long it will take, it really depends on you. I decided that I was not going to move forward with bags with John's names on it. And so when an emotion came up, as you say, the music at a store, whatever the case may be, I decided to turn that negative reinforcement into a positive reinforcement. So I'm in the store now, he's not here. What positive action can I attach to this song moving forward for me? Before I met him, I loved this song. Then after I met him, I didn't like it anymore. But let me go back before him and find the joy in that song again for myself. If I go to a certain place and it reminds me of him, I mean, I have 3 reminders as 3 children. I mean, you can't get any clearer of a reminder than that. And my son looks, walks, talks, behaves just like his dad. I can look, when he has a suit on, he looks just like him. And the only thing I say is, right now, that's my son. I said, you know what? You are a handsome man. I cannot believe how handsome you look. And that's where I keep it. I tried very hard to stay optimistic. Even when I was going through it, journaling helped me tremendously. I didn't have anybody to talk to. I had to forgive the people who did not step up and help me, the ones who I went to and they turned their backs on me, the ones who said they would help me, or the ones that said, I got you, and then they dropped me. I had to forgive them because perhaps they didn't know how to respond to me. Perhaps they didn't know what to say to me that would help me to understand my trauma better. And perhaps they've never been through this type of thing. So I truly cannot hold them accountable for trying to help me through a trauma I'm trying to understand for myself. So journaling became a really a healing portion for me. And I just wrote every day. I put the date at the top of the page to the left and put the time on the right side of that same page. I opened with a positive affirmation like namaste or how you doing or whatever. And then I just started writing. I didn't worry about punctuations. I didn't worry about grammar. I just wrote until I didn't feel like writing anymore. And I put the book down. Then the next day, I began to journal so much that my journal was actually calling me, Mildred, you know, you really need to write what's going on inside of you because you're going to carry this stuff with you and you're not going to heal. And so journaling helped me because I look at pain like an onion. And what we're trying to do is get to the core of that onion. So we have to pull back the layers of what is going on with that pain and just keep pulling it back until you get to the core. Once you get to the core and you understand what that emotion is, you put a name to it, look it up in the dictionary, and then find the definition that truly speaks to the experience that you're having and get an understanding for what shame is in that context. And once you dig that up, analyze it, accept it, you can move on from it and you will never cry over that again. It doesn't matter how you're triggered. It doesn't matter when it come up. It doesn't matter where you are, who you with. It'll just come like, oh, well, that's how it's going to come. So it really depends on how much you want to heal. If there's anybody around you that is speaking negativity to you, that is constantly reminding you of who you used to be, constantly reminding you and making you feel like the abuse was your fault, you have to cut that person off. Family, friend, coworker, doesn't matter. They gotta go. They were a part of your past. They cannot be a part of your future because they're always going to be reminding you of who you were. You need new friends who know the new you so that they can help you to grow to the next phase of where you need to be as a person. That's what I did. And so I tackled all the triggers, all the pain, all the trauma. I tackled it all. I refused to walk around with bags with John's names on it. That was my motivation. I'm not doing it. Especially since he's been executed and now he is in cemetery and I'm still walking around here scared. No.
Thank
Can't
you.
have that kind of power over me and he's in the cemetery. It's no.
Brilliant. Thanks for answering that, Mildred. You've got your hand raised, Johan. Did you want to ask a question to Karen or Mildred?
Well, no, it was a short comment, but I mean, what I want to say is thank you, and nice to finally meet you here, Mildred. Just listening to you just raised my inspiration and motivation as well, as all of you who are on this book. This is something that's helpful, writing about it, and it really strengthens us, I think, and at least me, I've been writing a lot ever since I moved out of that thing. Came to the safe house, I started writing, and it helps. It really is possible to reach on. I still can, really, now I can listen to music without having these awful feelings.
Right.
So I've taken my life back, and it is nice. I do have my low moments, but I feel strength. And being among you guys and being a part of this book, it feels just, bring it on, life. It's nice.
There was a time I couldn't listen to music with words to it. I was listening to smooth jazz because that would just take me on to a whole different level, made me feel happy. I tried to listen to the song with the lyrics and I said, oh, nope, not ready, I'm not ready. I go back to the jazz.
But crying is really good. That was something
I had
to stop. I had to stop crying because she told me that I was a wimp crying to movies, to music. And now as a free person, I cry. I watch cartoons on every Christmas Eve, Donald Duck, Cinderella, and The Lady and the Tramp. I cry. It's so nice to cry, and that's me back again. So, it comes. It's really great, but just so nice to be among you guys, being part of this.
Well, just so you know, when a man cries, that's a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness, because that's where you get the songs where men cry in the rain, because you can't tell if they're crying or if it's the rain hitting their faces. And a lot of men do that, right? And it's comforting when you can be around a person, be it your children or family member, that you can actually say, it's okay for me to cry. And they're not going to judge me and make me feel like that I should not cry. I got to hold it all in, and you don't have to do that. So a man crying is a sign of strength, not weakness. As well as for women too, because we so emotional, we always crying. Well, crying is a strength. And for women, that's how we get it out, is through crying. So if you're telling me I can't cry, then you're telling me I can't be strong. You're telling me it's not good for you to cry. You're telling me it's not good for me to be mean, right? Because it all comes back to you.
Definitely. Thank you, guys. So, Mildred, we've had most of the readings now. Anna, did you want to read your chapter? It's entirely up to you if you want to.
I don't think I want to read the chapter. Is it okay if I can talk about it?
Yeah, sure. You can talk about it. Go for it.
Thank you. So it's easier because the story is the same. We read the true story. So I am Anna, and I am breaking the silence like we all are. I am so amazed to be here. I want to thank Miss Mildred for having me and invite me to be a co-author with her book, because this is a powerful message that we need to save lives. This is our agenda, saving lives. And it's amazing when people like her invite us, people like me that I didn't know I could have done this, but because of God and because of the help that I got through her training, I'm able to stand in front of you and not crying today because my life was very, very sad to the point that I didn't believe in myself. Everything started in 1992. I used to live in California. And when I first met I was enchanted with my enemy. I thought he was a blue prince, but it ended to be, I used to call him the monster. I'm sorry, but I did. So what happened, I was so full of dreams, believing that he was gonna take care of me, protect me from anything. And that's what my mistake was, that when he started to be so nice, so kind, being around my family, I didn't know that he was preparing a way to keep me away from my family, to keep me away from myself, from my friends and my job, because he was controlling my life. But I didn't know, perhaps I used to get with my mom every weekend or every time I can, I go visit her. And when I go visit her, he is very controlling, by the point that I am stepping my foot inside my mom's house, and she's only 20 minutes away from the house. And he's calling, and my mom will be like, why is he calling you so soon? I said, Mommy, because he loves me. He wants to make sure I'm okay. He said, absolutely not. This is not right. You just came here. You was just with him. But I didn't know the signs. I thought that was love. I thought that was protection, but it actually was controlling. The control started in 1992 when I moved across the street from my sister's house. My mom lived with my sister. And I couldn't talk to my friends. And he was very nice with other women. He was so pleasant and very kind. And it was different because he used to do it in front of me. But I didn't understand that much English at the time. My English was very limited. So I just have to go along with the program, how he had me around. It was one time when I went to visit his mother with him. He introduced me to his family. I didn't get to meet all his family because the other part of the families are very famous in the entire world. They are celebrities, and I couldn't meet them yet. I didn't even believe that he was related to this family because I didn't understand what he was talking about because of my English. But I met his mother, and his mother was very happy with me. And he told him, you better be careful with her. This is the best thing you ever had. Be nice to Anna. And I was so happy because she liked me. She really did. But I didn't understand why we just say that to him. And now I understand why, because he was an abuser. He will not just hit me, but will hit my son. I had a son when I met him, and he also will hurt him as well. So it was very painful because not just me suffering, but see my child, it was really bad. But I understand that as a mother, we got to be strong. So it was one time that I came from work. At the time, I still was working. I found my son, he had bruises in his butt, like print hand, purple and red. It was really bad. I just have to say, I have to get out of this place. I don't know how, but I couldn't because I'm so embarrassed. I didn't want no one to know what I was going through. It was embarrassed. It was a taboo. You couldn't talk about this. No one believed. The first thing people would tell you, if you do talk, why don't you leave? First of all, nobody wants to be bothered with a woman who is pregnant and have another child. They don't want to be bothered. They just want to have peace in their house. They want to have their family. They don't want to be inconvenienced by nobody else. So to me, it was very hard to ask for help because I didn't want to talk to nobody. So it ended up that I put up with him. He tried to change. It was changing a little bit here and there. But it was the time that we moved to Florida because his family, his father, sent for us over here. So I said, oh, maybe he would change in Florida. Maybe he would change because his families are so famous and he don't want no problems with his dad. Maybe because he will have a lot of money now, he will leave me alone and blah, blah, blah. But no, it didn't change. It got worse because while he being here, he has a lot of spotlight because he was the brother of these famous sisters, and he have to he got worse. I was at the point that I bothered him. I was in the middle of his life. If you wouldn't exist, I would be with so-and-so. He would tell me all those things. He would come out of nowhere, fight. Yeah. You know how you have your pantry, your food, everything has to be organized. I mean, that doesn't have to be organized, but for him, if I didn't put the tomato sauce with the same brand, with the same color, it would be a problem. I would get in trouble. I would get hit. I would get yelled. Or he would come from home because when I moved to Florida, I didn't have to work anymore. I would have to keep the house very clean. But if he find a little trash that he put himself just to start a fight, I would get in trouble. He would fight for everything. He would grab a pillow, throw me in the bed, put the pillow over my face, and I would fight back. course I will fight back. But he was a 6 foot tall, Black man, muscular, very strong. So I couldn't defend myself. I didn't have no strength. I tried until I could, until I was passing out. Until he saw me that I was passing out and I couldn't fight no more, he let the pillow go. When I taken the pillow off, I have, little, that's all over my face. That was blood. So it happens continually, but I was so scared to call 911 because I didn't know if they was going to help me because I was in this family. So it was very hard, but I did it one time when he actually really hit me bad that day. The ambulance came and the news was all over. My voice was all over everywhere in the whole nation. I was like, oh, what did I do? I was so scared, so afraid. He actually went to jail that night, but his dad got him out the next day. So it didn't help out, it got worse. So I had to get back home. And I was home again with him and he asked me, forgive me, I will never touch you again. I said, okay. And I'm sorry for calling the police. It's my fault because it's always your fault. It's never their fault. I'm so sorry, but he didn't stop. He would come with presents for me after he beat me up. And then the next thing I noticed that it was a pattern. So what I used to do, give it to my neighbor. I didn't want no presents. I don't want that because that would remind me, if you do this again, I will beat you again and I will beat you to remind you who am I. So I have to remember to give those things away. But then he got worse to the point that I got sit down with a slap him, like, if I don't listen to him, I'm standing up and he's yelling, why do you talk to so-and-so? Because if I go to some places with him, I could not talk to anybody. I was able to be like this. If I speak to some friends or anybody, he would get very upset. So I could not talk to my family. I could not talk to friends. And he bring me up around his friends. He was a person that I didn't even know. And I have to keep my mouth shut. But I have to do what I have to do at the time. And I escaped that time. And I went to a shelter. But when I escaped the first time, I didn't have a plan. And that's the problem. When we don't have a plan, we don't.
Anna, sorry, you're on mute. You've gone on mute. I don't know what's happening. It keeps doing this.
So what happened? So at the time before I got back with him, I went to a shelter, right? So I had to come back with him because I didn't know that I was pregnant. So I had to come back home because I had no skills, I had no life. I lost my life, my identity. I lost everything that I could ever depend on. I just didn't lose faith in God. That's what kept me going. So when I got back, it was worse. And it was worse because he was humiliated because they were mentioning the brother or so-and-so. And they got the picture of him all over the news. So it was really, really bad for him. And I'm sorry, but he did that to himself. If he wouldn't touch me, I would have never feel that I was in danger and call the police. But I was to the point that I was just scared. But I got the strength back and I started praying and I said, I don't deserve this. And if I die here, I'm pregnant. And he didn't care. He would put me out of the car. He would get mad and I would walk in the middle of they call a highway, the middle, the B line, which is it's like in the country and there's a lot of alligators and a lot of water around there. So we live in the country at the time where their family lives. We live in the same property, but not in the same house. But he would kick me out of the car and I would walk and I would pee myself. I was 6 months pregnant and then he was cheating. Oh, it was horrible. And then everything was my fault. And tell me that I will cut your face. You will never find another man. I will do whatever it takes. I will destroy you. You're nobody. You're nothing without me. And I just believe everything he told me. I did believe until I saw my life was getting worse and worse. And I couldn't call the police anymore because these people are celebrities. And who am I? I'm from El Salvador. No skills, barely spoke English. I was nobody. So that's what I used to think. But there's one time he was very, very angry. I don't remember why it was, because he would pick everything. He came to my car. I was trying to escape with the kids because I couldn't call 911 because it was all over the news. And I didn't want to hurt his sisters because they didn't do anything to me. So I was trying to protect them. I wasn't thinking about protecting me, that protect his sisters and the dad. So when I got in the car, he got very angry. He kicked the car with his foot, the window, and all the glass came in my face. I couldn't leave. He grabbed the keys and get the hell out of my car, and boom, he got out of the car, went inside the house, wait for him to calm down and say, I'm sorry, I'm not leaving. I'm sorry, I love you. And do all the things that you have to tell them in order for you not to be killed or hurt that moment. So what I did, I went to my room and he went, I told the kids, go in there, don't worry, everything is okay. Trying to protect the kids and keep them calm. So he was very angry. I had a machete that in the house that we had it there. So he had the machete and he started with the machete and said, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna go outside and have a smoke and I'll be right back and get ready because tonight you're dying. So, okay, in my head, I said, oh God, help me. I'm just so scared inside of me, very scared. But what I did, I went to my room. I had a house phone, called 911. I unplugged the cord because it would go beep, 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 or they would call back. And if they call back, this line would be busy. And I knew that if you call from a line, they knew where you was. You didn't have to say anything. But the only way that I could do, because I didn't want his family to be affected with this media attention that they didn't deserve. It was not their fault. They didn't do anything to me. So I didn't want that attention to go there. So they did came. The police came to my house, knocked the door, and I was freaking out. I was running back and forth from the bathroom. I was so nervous. I was so scared. I was crying. I was just asking God to please help me, help me, help me. I need your help. I need your help. So at the moment when I got in there and I opened the door, he said, did someone call the police? He said, no. Yes. I said, I did. And the police said, what happened? He said, he's going to kill me and I don't want to die. I have my kids and I'm afraid that he's been abusing me for so many years. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't have no place to go. So the police came, got me out. They helped me to escape and I never went back. And I had the strength to get out. And until today's day, my life is different. I have a beautiful family, I have my kids, and I'm alive. And I am a speaker. And I wrote my first book, I Am Anna, and I'm Breaking the Silence. And it just became bestseller, #1, national and international, because I want to help women. I want to do what Mildred did. I want to go back, like you're in a battlefield, you got to go back for your people. So this is my story.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I can tell that was very emotional for you. So thank you for having the strength to share that. Can I just go to questions? Is anybody get any questions for Anna? Okay. Anna, can I just ask, how long ago did you manage to kind of escape that situation?
Yes, I escaped in 2004.
Okay.
In 2004 when I escaped.
And how do you feel? How do you feel now? Do you feel you're still kind of suffering?
Yeah, I feel like I waste so much time. I feel like I could have left before. Why did I wait so long? Because, I didn't believe in myself. And because I was in a powerful family, it was harder for me to escape. It was very, very difficult. But I feel great. I accomplished. I'm in a different level of my life. I am doing so much better. I am happy. And I know that when Miss Mildred gave the training, she opened my eyes and my heart. And she said this to me, I will never forget. It was not your fault. It never was your fault. So I kept that inside of me. So when every woman say you inspire me, I want to do what you did. And I always tell them, this is not your fault. It never was and never will be.
Absolutely. Such a good attitude.
Yes.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. We're here to know that we're not alone and we have to stand up for ourselves and help others, because it's not easy. It's not easy because we are so locked up and we don't see anything. We just hear our abuser, and that's all it is, 24/7, telling you you're nothing, you're nobody, you're never going nowhere. So it makes you feel really bad. You lose everything. I lost everything, my identity, my money. everything, but I didn't lose me or my kids. That's for sure.
Exactly, and that's what counts. And you've built yourself back up, so that's the main thing.
We have to.
Brilliant, thank you.
You're
Anybody
welcome.
any questions, guys? No. Okay. Mildred, I'm gonna I'm gonna pass it over to you now to read your chapter. So I'm just gonna pop you on spotlight. Bear with me. Okay, you're on mute, Mildred.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate everyone attending the summit. I appreciate all of the co-authors that are in this book with me. I appreciate you having the strength and the courage to share a painful part of your life so that others can be uplifted and can be healed from what you have said. I'm grateful for just being in this space with you all, and I feel like we're a family and we can share how we feel without being judged and truly come to the healing that we are looking for. So my story is so my story takes so many peaks and valleys. But the theme of my story is that you do not have to have physical scars to be a victim or a survivor of domestic violence. 80% of victims do not have physical scars to prove that they are victims. 20% do. Unfortunately, because we are a visual society, we have to see the scars in order to validate when a person is a victim or is not. And as a society, worldwide, we have to stop putting victims in a box because everybody doesn't fit into the box that we paint or they try to paint victims as. Domestic violence doesn't have a gender, it doesn't have a race, creed, color, it doesn't have a religion or an occupation. It can happen from the very rich to the very poor. It happens to men, women, and children. And just because you are an abuser and you say, well, you know, when I was raised in my home, I saw my mom hit my dad, or I saw my dad hit my mom. Being an abuser is a choice because there are many men and many women who were born or have grown up in abusive households, and they chose not to inflict that type of pain and torment their family in the name of that's just how I was raised, because it's not how you were raised. It is truly a choice. And we have to stop putting abusers in the category of mental illness, because then we will not give the true help that mentally ill people are due, because now everybody fits in mental illness. Abusers know exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, and how often they are abusing their family. And on the flip side of that, every victim knows that they're victims, every last one of them. So when you try to remind me that I'm a victim, trust me, I already know. The question is, what are you going to do to help me? Stop telling me what to do and start asking me that one question that everybody's afraid to ask and never asks a victim. And that is, how can I help you? We don't get asked that question. We just get told what to do. Well, if I was you, you know, if you was me, you would have been ducking too. So don't try to give me medicine that you wouldn't take yourself. I will say that we must change the narrative and stop asking victims, why do you stay? Start asking abusers, why do you abuse? When you ask the victim, why do you stay? You are placing the total responsibility of the abuse on the victim instead of holding the abuser accountable and responsible for terrorizing their family. When victims attempt to leave an abusive relationship, up to 75% of them are either injured or killed. In my story, the DC Sniper, we were divorced October 6, 2000. I was running for my life for 2 years and I was in hiding. He took the children out of the country. Law enforcement said there was nothing they could do because it was considered custodial interference. It's a different type of law in family court than it is in a regular, somebody just kidnapped my children. When the shooting started and when they found out who it was, the theory was he was killing innocent people to cover up my murder so he can come in as the grieving father and get custody of the children. That was the thing. It was a domestic violence child custody issue. However, because you cannot get the death penalty for domestic violence, and we did go to court. However, my issues of domestic abuse and kidnapping was not addressed in the court because that was not enough to hold him accountable for the many people, the many families he destroyed in his attempt to kill me, to get custody of his children. They would rather that you believe that it was two men in a Chevy trying to embezzle the government for $10 million on a stolen credit card instead of the truth, which was he traveled across country, found me. Actually, he went to a detective in Washington State, told them I kidnapped the children. They believed him without doing any research. He did a skip trace on me, found me in the DC area and told him. He went to his best friend and said, hey, I found Mildred. She's in DC. I'm going to go get her. He said, you're not going to hurt her, are you? He said, he didn't answer. So when he was in Washington State, that's when he went across country, killing innocent people, came up to the DC area, found me, started shooting people around me. That best friend called the FBI and said, hey, I don't know anything about your case, but you may want to look at John Allen Muhammad. His ex-wife is in the area and he may be there to hurt her. That's when the investigation changed. They put me and my children in protective custody October the 23rd, 2001, and they caught him the following day. That was the theory. That is the truth. Probably not going to hear that again because you cannot get the death penalty for domestic violence. There are many laws on the books. Some of those laws are so old, they need to dust them off. We don't need new laws. We just need you to enforce what's on the books. That's all we want. We get a restraining order, enforce it if they violate the restraining order. So there are many victims out there and survivors that are looking for help. They're international and in the United States. There are advocates all over the place for you to contact. You don't have to suffer in silence. You do not feel that the abuse is your fault, even though it's been told to you over and over again. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Don't hold yourself accountable for a grown person's behavior. They are responsible for their behavior. You are not. So again, thank you for coming to this summit. I'm just so excited with all of the authors being with me. They have some extraordinary stories of strength and courage. And I'm just so proud all of them took the steps to leave their relationship, even though they didn't know where they were going or how they were going to get there or who is going to help them and who's not. It's just a roller coaster, but I'm so glad that we all decided to leave because we're stronger for it. And now we can reach out and help other people.
Thanks, Mildred. That was a very inspiring speech. I'm sure everybody will agree. Can I just ask as well, because something came to mind.
Mhm.
In this country, and Karen, you probably know this as well, I think they've brought in a law for coercive behaviour.
Mhm.
Is that right, Karen? They have, haven't they? That if you're caught
Yep.
doing that, or people can call you out and all sorts. Have they got anything like that in the US?
They do, but it's still hard to prove. We have to, so when you don't have physical scars, you have to show a pattern of abuse, which is why I ask victims to write down date and time of the event. If you can get those witnesses that were there to write a short statement about it, because it helps the courts to see that it's a pattern of abuse. So when you're going for a restraining order, like say you're going next week, I would say go back 2 months and show that pattern up till that day so that the judge can see, you really do need a restraining order because this person is not stopping. And so we need to put a stop to that. That's how I've been successful in helping victims who do not have physical scars to get a restraining order. Physical scars is one thing, but when it's not 80%, you could be sitting next to a victim and not even know it.
And would you think that, I can imagine that's true, because you're right, we live in a very visual world where people need to see bruises and cuts and stuff before they actually take things seriously.
Correct.
Would you say, in your opinion, that, and anybody actually, that the mental side of this affects you worse than the actual violence? Because obviously violent scars heal, but mental scars, I think, maybe have a lasting effect.
I've talked to many victims, and those with physical scars and without, and all of them said that the mental is harder to get through than the physical, because the scars will heal, but what was said intentionally to hurt continues to play like a tape recorder in your head. But I learned how to turn off the tape recorder, so
well, that's good.
it's not running in my head anymore. I turned that thing off and threw it away. No. When you hear those negative comments, you have to replace them, because those are negative reinforcements. So you have to replace them with positive reinforcement. And you have to bring it back to you. Well, you're ugly. Well, according to the mirror, I'm beautiful. Well, you can't think, well, I'm actually really intelligent. You're really not going to get very far. Well, I've really gotten very far without you. You're not going to find anybody else like me. God, I hope not.
Love it. Does anybody have any questions?
So you gotta replace it with positive reinforcement, and always stay optimistic. Always stay positive, because it's the positive reinforcement that really help you to get through that. Don't believe what the abuser said, because all they did was transferred who they are upon you. So everything they said about you, it's them. You really can't cook. No, you can cook. You can't clean up this house. I can clean up here. It's always them. It's always them.
Just projection, isn't it? It's just
that's
projection.
all it is. That's all it is. But once you start believing it, then that's where it gets hard. When you start to believe that they know the truth about you better than you know the truth about yourself, that's when it gets tricky. Because now you're trusting them to give you're trusting them and accepting their opinion of you more than you are accepting the opinion of yourself for yourself. It comes back to you.
Definitely.
Don't believe it.
Johan.
Yes, hi Mildred, thank you for your powerful story. You're an inspiration, and I know you've been working 20 years raising this awareness. I would like to just ask a question about, how do you see today in the US, at least, male victims? Is this something that is increasing when it comes to awareness about it? How is it in school, for example? I know here in Sweden, they never really mentioned this. Still today, we have TV shows, we have radio shows about domestic violence, and it's always the same. It's the woman who is the victim, and the man who is the perpetrator, abuser. And even police here in Sweden, they have created school material where they always show the young man as the perpetrator. How is it over there in the US, would you say, who has been working 20 years with these issues?
There has been some headway in terms of teaching domestic abuse and violence in the school system but it's not called that. It's called something like healthy relationships, where you understand what the green flags are and the red flags. I've spoken at different middle schools and high schools and trying to help them to understand what dating violence looks like. Because it's really difficult to touch in the elementary school because, you know, they'll go home and they look at what they learned in school. They go home and see daddy hitting mommy or mommy hitting daddy. And then it comes to, well, if I tell, then I'm not going to have a home. Right? So then if I don't have a home, then where am I going to go? And I don't want to go to foster care, and I don't have a family that'll take care of me. So I'm just going to be quiet. There's so many dynamics to that.
Yeah.
And so with teen violence, then we know that the awareness is there. However, teens don't talk to adults. They talk to each other, right? So what are you going to do about him, or what are you going to do about her? You know, she's this and she's that. There are a lot of YouTube videos that address dating violence for teens up to the teens from 13 to 18, and then from 19 to 25, because that's that parameter that not many people are really discussing it to their liking, right? And so videos are made. There are animation videos, and there are some for elementary school children, but it's really about what behaviors look like. So a lot of it is addressed in YouTube videos, and they can be seen all over the world. A lot of TVs, for example, they used to have PSAs on TV in October. I don't have them anymore. I see PSAs for everything but domestic violence. They don't have them anymore because it's not a big issue, right?
So
they focus more on physical ailments than social issues. So if you have cancer, leukemia, things like that, then you know you got the pets and the children, hospitals and things like that. The dogs and the cats need help, and the people in Africa and other countries need help, but they don't address domestic violence.
It's so sad, because what I see in my job in this non-profit organization that I'm in here in Sweden is that so many of the men who contact us are so afraid of losing custody of their children because their wives or their perpetrator is telling them, if you, and I actually had that threat over me as well. She would say to me that if you say something, I'm going to say this, and they will believe me because I'm a woman. And she used to threaten me about, you know, she would tell me I was a pedophile. And this is what comes along all the time. So many fathers and men, they stick in these relationships for such a long time because of this fright of losing their kids or being, you know, put out as a pedophile or even worse things.
There's a movie I remember seeing, and the movie was about domestic violence, but the woman was the abuser. And it wasn't until, and he would have these marks all over his body, but he would say it was from playing football or something to that nature. And it wasn't until almost to the end where the child spoke up and said, Grandpa, mommy hits daddy. Daddy doesn't hit mommy. I'll find that video and send it to you. But is it possible that if they document what's happening to them, then they can see a pattern or talk to?
We tell them all the time that try to document, because police and social authorities here, it takes a whole lot for them to believe the man, the male victim, whereas when a woman comes and say he did this, they don't need to have almost any proof at all. And we've seen this. And when we go to the police with our male victim and file a complaint, or what do you say, and then 2 days later, this woman comes with her attorney and she says he raped me, and then they go for that story. The police believes her instead of believing him. So this is we have a huge Mount Everest here, and I think not only here, but I mean it's it's sad that that makes many men not speak out because of,
Right.
of
How
fear.
long did it take them to believe you?
I went to the social authorities 4 times in 20 plus years, and they told me just, you know, well, sorry, but we, you know, if you just go home and hold a low profile, you'll see that, you know, in my 5th attempt after 25 years, I was believed, and I got this place at this safe house, which is called All Women's House. There are hardly any safe houses for male victims.
Correct.
So it
And
took me
it's
20
like that in
years.
the United States too.
20 years it took me 20 years plus before they actually believed me.
Is it possible that you can have a dialogue with the police department in your location and ask them what actions would the victim, who's a man, needs to take in order for them to believe him the first time? What would that look like?
Yeah, I've been, you know, we're some guys now working on these things that we're going out to educate police, social authorities.
Good.
We're going on Monday we have been invited by the new Minister of Gender Equality here. We have a new government in Sweden.
Okay.
And they invited us on Monday, actually. So I'm going to go there, and we're going to, they gave us 3 minutes with the minister.
Hey, take it.
So,
Take 3 minutes and turn it into 5.
Yeah. No, but this is
3 minutes is your foot in the door. Doesn't mean you have to take the 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah. No, so I mean, things are happening. I've seen a difference in these 2 years. I've been active with this. I'm writing articles. I've been on television shows. I mean, it is positive. It is possible to create change. And now actually they are creating a hotline for male victims. So
it's amazing.
It is possible to create change. Yeah.
But when I first started speaking, there wasn't any material that was available for victims who did not have physical scars. Everything was about the violence, the hitting, the kicking, all of this and that. I even spoke to several executive directors before I began speaking and asked them. So I looked at the gamut of domestic violence. There's prevention, where you're in it and when you get out of it. So why are we not helping the survivors? What is really going on here? Because, right? Yeah. And so the more I started to speak on domestic abuse, I noticed that things were starting to change and more information was being put out about invisible scars and how you need to be I went to a conference and there was an organization and the ED said, you know, it wasn't until Mildred Muhammad started speaking that we began to pay attention to domestic abuse because we put all our funding in domestic violence. So that was confirmation for me that I was on the right track in order to bring more awareness. So it sounds like you're on that track to bring more awareness to the men that needs the help, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that the men that come behind you and the ones that are presently in your reach can get the help that they need. Because until we start addressing everybody, it's just going to be a circle. It's not going to be completely breaking the cycle.
Rings on the water, and
right.
I was so happy that my son, my oldest son now wants to share his story as well, just, you know, by, so, I mean, it's just good, you know, if one starts talking, then others find the courage.
Will come. It's like that domino effect. You hit one and everybody, all the rest of them will come.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just so honored to have all of you in this book with me. I really am.
Thank you.
It's a really powerful book. You don't want to put it down when you start reading it. It's definitely a page turner for sure. Anna?
Yes, when he's saying it touched my heart because my son who lived my life with me, he just have to walk away from his girlfriend. She was beating him up, and he would call me. He would like, his clothes was already squashed all over, but he said, I refuse to hit her, so I'd rather leave, Mom. I said, go ahead and leave. And the kids were seeing that. So we have to do something, because these kids, they suffer, but thank God that he did not become an abuser. So I just wanted to share that he was abusive, and she still text him and talk down to him. Last week he say, Mom, she just told me that because he left her about a year ago. Now he got a beautiful girlfriend who loves him for who he is. And she called him and said, what in the world you choose? You say mean, evil things. I say, remember who's talking, she's defining herself. That's not who you are. So it has to be so strong and keep him in check to make sure he's not down, because he was at the time that he wanted to kill himself because of the things she was saying to him. So it's
block
really,
her number. Can we block her number?
he does, but he called it from another number, and he has 2 daughters with him. 2 daughters.
She has 2 daughters. There has to be a, if he can write down these things that she's saying, even if it's a text, print it out, take it to the court, ask for a restraining order.
He did.
And how did that work out?
They told him that she cannot contact him or call him or anything, because he called the police. I told her to call the police 2 times. He did. They let him out. He didn't want to press charges because of the babies, but now she cannot do anything, but she still would not stop. And he doesn't want to do anything, because if she goes back again, they're going to take it, and he's worried about his daughter. So while he doesn't
want to raise the daughter?
He wants to, but
then, you know, I get it, because a lot of men do not want to put the mother of their child in prison. They don't want to speak badly about her. They, in their way, they want to protect her because she's precious and she's nice and she's all of these things. However, in order for it to stop, he has to move forward and press those charges, because nowadays people are killing people in domestic violence situations. She may get to a point where if I can't have him, then she can't either, and she's not considering the child. She's hurting and she wants him to hurt too. So he has to talk to an advocate. Get him to talk to somebody that will help him to really determine what's the next step.
Okay.
Because the constant calling, and she is intentionally violating a restraining order. That means it's escalating.
It is.
And you don't want it to escalate to the point where you get a call and you hear that your son is deceased.
Yes, I'm very worried.
Call an advocate in your area and ask them what is the next step that they should take. He should.
I'm going to visit him next month. I'm going to spend a week with him and his daughters. Hopefully she let me see my granddaughters. And he lives in Connecticut. So when I go there, I'm going to see what can I do when I go there and help him out. But I keep him constantly keep him, letting him know that it's not true. I have to remind him, remember what your stepdad did to me? She is just a little version of him. And you remember that you told me, Mom, you believe in God, we got to escape. So I want you to know that those words I'm giving back to you. You got to escape from the woman. You got to do what you got to do. If you want to raise your kids, get them now before it's too late. But he doesn't want to.
Call the Coalition Against Domestic Violence in Connecticut and ask them what to do.
Okay, I'm going to write it down. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Brilliant. Well, guys, I think that just about wraps us up tonight. So from me, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has turned up tonight. Really, really appreciate it. I've found it fascinating listening to everybody. And I'm going to pass it over to Mildred to give the closing word tonight. And then hopefully, this won't be the last time we see each other. Over to you, Mildred.
Well, again, thank you all for coming. I'm so grateful for the co-authors for sharing their stories of resilience. But what I would like to do is turn it over to Denise McCain because she wrote the foreword for the book. And I would like her to give the ending to what she read and how it has not only impacted her, but how she feels that it will impact the world.
See, Mildred, I was trying to stay silent in the background here. I'm in my office at work and I'm multitasking as always. So I don't know if I want to thank you for the introduction or not, but I will just say very briefly to all of you, those of you that wrote amazing stories. I was moved. And as I said in the foreword, it was very hard in many instances to read and hear about the horrific events that you experienced as victims. I am the child of a victim, and my mother lost her life as a result of domestic violence. So it was tragic, and it was really, a lot of it triggered some things for me. But I think that what you're doing is so necessary, because I don't think people always understand how or why someone would be in a situation like that. Why they stay in those situations. There's so many misnomers, and society oftentimes re-victimizes victims for lack of information and knowledge. So what you're doing is so important by sharing your stories, giving that real candid insight, a look behind the closed doors of what it looks like and how you survived and what it took for you to get to the place where you are now. I admire you and I applaud you for your courage, and congratulate you for your journey and being where you are today. And this book is going to be life-changing for many people. So again, it was a pleasure reading it, and kudos to all of you. And of course, Miss Mildred Muhammad, what can I say about you? A true trailblazer and leader who's taken this to so many levels. So thank you all, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you. Does anybody have any closing statements they want to make before we just log off? Elke?
I just wanted to say thank you for this event. First of all, to Mildred for putting this book together and for everything that you talked about. It is such an important subject. And some of the most important things in the book I found were to what Karen and you, for example, did to talk about the aftermath once the violence or the domestic violence or domestic abuse ended, and all the consequences, all the follow-ups, what happened afterwards, because that's very rarely spoken about. And it shows how badly the system is lacking. And no matter if it's the UK or Sweden or the US, there are a lot of things that have to be done to get more help for the victim, rather than, focus on the abuser and what happened there. That the help that the victim is getting. One word for Johan, I admire you for speaking up about your experience, and reminds me of working with one person in my counseling training that I worked with, who was not suitable for the techniques that I was training in, who took ages to develop trust, but who was also abused by his partner, emotionally and physically. And it opened my eyes massively. And I have been starting to talk about and to raise awareness of male abuse. That abuse happens to males as well as females. So it's something as well that needs to be more in the spotlight. And lastly, there's a campaign at the moment in the TV adverts in the UK that gets me to shouting at the TV every single time, because it says it's against violence. It's to stop violence against women. And every time I shout at the TV, what about the males? What about children?
Right.
So thank you, Sharon, for letting me speak.
Oh, bless you. You're more than welcome, Elke. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
Now, I just want to say thank you for having me in this amazing book with so many co-authors. And I love the name is Mildred, In the Midst of Chaos. It just that's exactly how we live. I'm just so honored to be part of this. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm so grateful.
Johan?
Yes, also one could speak so much, but you know, it's such an honor to be on this project, this book, finally to be among so many strong women here and ex-victims, and be a part of this. And I think this book will be a game changer because there are so many strong stories. And there are so many good, strong things coming with this book. Not, and as you say about the aftermath and everything, because there's so many things that comes with this book. And thank you all for being on this journey. And yeah, I'm honored to be here with you guys. And let's create change.
Absolutely.
And that is a great way to end it. Thank you, Johan. Thank you, guys. You're all amazing.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So much. Bye.
Bye.